This is Fresh Air. I'm Terry Gross. It's become a Fresh Air tradition to do a theme week at the end of August leading into Labor Day weekend. This time we're devoting the week to interviews about food. So let's begin day 2 of All You Can Eat Week with the author of the book Banana. The first thing that caught my attention in this book was the description of the epidemic underway that could, in a matter of decades, essentially wipe out the type of banana Americans eat. I would really miss a banana at breakfast or lunch, and I know I'm not alone. According to this book, Americans eat more bananas per year than apples and oranges combined. Bananas taste sweet, but much of their history is not. Along with innovations in agriculture, technology, shipping, and marketing, the fruit owes its popularity to banana barons who controlled and in some cases destroyed nations. That was the meaning of Banana Republic long before it meant chain clothing store. Dan Capel is the author of Banana, The Fate of the Fruit That Changed the World. He's been published in National Geographic, Wired, and Popular Science, and has eaten bananas in 5 continents. We spoke when the book was published. Dan Capel, welcome to Fresh Air. What is killing bananas?
Thank you for having me. What's happening with bananas is that they are being struck by a fungus called Panama disease that is incurable and that pretty much wipes out banana plantations within a matter of years. And what's really interesting is that the banana that's being struck was one that was believed to be and selected to be resistant to this fungus after the earlier banana crop, the one our grandparents ate, was destroyed by the same fungus about 50 years ago.
So is this a different strain of that fungus?
It is a different strain of that fungus. What happened was they brought some of our resistant bananas to Asia, where they hit a mutated version of that fungus, and from there it just began galloping through that hemisphere and has made it all the way to Australia and is almost certain to come towards our own banana fields in Latin and South America sometime in the next 10 years.
But it hasn't hit there yet.
It has not hit there yet. But every single banana scientist I spoke to, and that was quite a few, says it's not an if, it's a when. And 10 to 30 years, it only takes a single clump of contaminated dirt, literally, to get this thing rampaging across entire continents.
Are bananas particularly vulnerable to epidemics?
Yeah, bananas are, for all their ubiquity, and it's the world's most popular fruit by far, are very, very vulnerable to a lot of diseases. And the reason for this is that the bananas we eat, which are called Cavendish bananas, are fundamentally clones of each other. There are no seeds. Every banana is grown basically by taking a cutting from one and turning it into another tree. So every Cavendish banana that we eat, every banana you eat, that I eat, that people eat in China, in Europe, wherever, is exactly the same genetically as every other one. And just like human identical twins, what afflicts one afflicts the others. And these very weak bananas have a number of diseases, and Panama disease is the worst, but there's a whole bunch of others that are almost as bad that require incredible amounts of control and chemicals and all sorts of practices just to keep that fruit coming to our breakfast tables every day.
So you said they require a lot of chemicals and stuff. What about the organic bananas that you see at health food stores, natural food stores?
Well, yeah, organic bananas do not require a lot of chemicals, obviously, and that's a great thing. And far be it from me to be negative about organics, but they don't really help the problem. It's not possible. There's not enough land to grow enough organic bananas to make them a practical replacement for all of our supermarket bananas. That's because organic bananas, in order to fight disease, have to be grown at higher altitudes and cooler temperatures. That's the way it works. And there are just not enough high-altitude, cool-temperature places that are also hospitable to growing tropical bananas in order to make organic bananas a viable, total replacement for those standard 69-cent-a-pound bananas you find in your local market.
You mentioned that the Cavendish bananas that we all eat today in the United States are different from the type of banana that was eaten a couple of generations ago. What was that called, and what are the differences between the two?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Most people don't know this. The original banana that was introduced to the U.S. around 1880, 1890 and took off, almost immediately surpassed apples as the number one favorite fruit, was called the Gros Michel banana. And it was, by almost every account, a tastier, bigger banana that had a tougher skin, and it was generally a superior food. But the problem with the Gros Michel was that it was susceptible to this fungus called Panama disease, which was first seen in Panama. And it was incurable. And over the first 50 years of the last century, this disease just rampaged and destroyed the Gros Michel. This Cavendish banana we eat is considered an inferior banana because it tastes more bland. It's tougher to ship. It needs to be boxed, as opposed to the Gros Michel, which could be just thrown into a boat. And it was so, our banana was so despised by the banana companies. They were so sure they thought it would be the new Coke of the banana world, that the entire consumer market would reject this, what they basically considered a lousy banana. Of course, the Gros Michel went away, and we didn't have a choice, and they didn't have a choice. And luckily for banana lovers, the transition was fairly invisible, at least on the breakfast table.
So when did the Cavendish replace the Gros Michel?
The first real Cavendish plantations came in the 50s. They were introduced by Standard Fruit, which is now known as Dole. They were Chiquita's small competitor. Chiquita refused to do this. They were terrified, and they were literally on the verge of bankruptcy in 1960 when they finally, at the last minute, adopted the Cavendish.
If the Cavendish is killed off by this fungus that's rampaging around much of the world, is there a replacement in the works?
Well, it's interesting because the only banana that's exported for any significant amount is the Cavendish. Yet there are over 1,000 different kinds of bananas. The problem is that only the Cavendish is suitable for export. In order to be exported, a banana has to have a tough enough skin that it can stand the long trip. It has to ripen at exactly the same rate so that when it gets to your supermarket, it's going to be just green and it's going to be nice and yellow with a couple of brown flecks in 7 days. Of all these bananas, and it has to taste right for consumer taste, and of all these bananas that people eat all around the world, there is no non-local banana other than the Cavendish to a great extent. And so there isn't necessarily or really a Cavendish replacement. It would require a change in the way we enjoy and think of bananas in order to get this banana replaced. And then it would also require a lot of technology, both in terms of science and in terms of just building structures that could bring these more fragile, different bananas to market.
You've tasted bananas around the world as part of your research. How do other bananas compare in taste to what we're used to in the United States?
Well, the big disadvantage of spending 3 years writing a banana book is that you actually become a banana snob and you learn to despise or at least have contempt for the lowly, poor, workaday Cavendish, which is a bland banana. There are some amazingly delicious bananas out there. My favorite is called the Lacatan. It's from the Philippines, and it's the banana enthusiasts, such as they are, many of them believe it's the best tasting banana in the world, and I would have to agree with that. It's got a very intense, creamy flavor. There are red banana, and you do see some red bananas in gourmet stores here, which are related to the Lacatan, but they're quite inferior, although they're still better than Cavendish.
Well, one thing you looked into was genetically modified bananas that could withstand the fungus that is killing bananas in much of the world. So what are some of the things you learned about what's possible through genetic modification?
Well, I think the first thing to say is to get to is how important bananas are. We love bananas. We eat more of them than anybody. Our cornflakes would suffer without them. But to some extent, they're a replaceable fruit for us. In other parts of the world, especially in Africa, bananas are incredibly important. People rely on them for 80% of their calories. People eat 500 pounds of bananas a year compared to 25 pounds for us in Uganda. So I'm saying that because genetic modification is probably the best and fastest way to strengthen the banana, all different kinds of bananas, not just Cavendish, but these local bananas, to strengthen them against these diseases that are running so wild right now, and to provide, the fastest way forward to protecting these food supplies for people who really need them. And so right now they're doing a lot of work with DNA manipulation, attempting to cross one banana with another, sometimes trying to add attributes from other foods. Radishes are quite resistant to a similar fungus, so there have been attempts to add some radish genes to bananas. Nothing has so far made it into the fields very much for testing, though.
Genetically modified foods are very controversial. We don't know what the long-term effects are on human bodies or on crops. But you think bananas are in a different position than most fruits and vegetables? Why?
I do. And as I say in the book, I was the poster boy for thinking, I want my foods pure. I don't want genetic modification. I don't want pesticides. I still don't want pesticides, but I've come full circle on genetic modification, especially when it comes to bananas. I really believe that the potential dangers are minimal, if any. We talk about crop contamination. Well, bananas don't have seeds. They don't have pollen. They're sterile. So the idea that something could happen, as has happened with corn in a lot of the world, where corn pollen has from genetically modified corn has spread in some fields so much that you can't tell which corn is which. That's not going to happen with bananas. In addition, I think the need is very urgent with bananas. And I really just don't think that genetic engineering is the evil people say it is. I think that it's one of those things that if misused, it's definitely can be a nasty thing. But the way it's being done in bananas is, to me, no different than an advancement on the conventional hybridization techniques that farmers have been using for 10,000 years.
I know I eat a lot of bananas, and some bananas, they're just like duds. Like you get them home and they never turn yellow, or if they do turn yellow, it's this kind of like sickly color. And when you peel, they look more brownish than yellow. When you take off the peel, it's kind of stringy and almost wood-like and like a pulpy wood. And the banana tastes more earthy than sweet.
Yeah, on behalf of all banana lovers, I have to apologize. The problem is that, in theory, all bananas are the sort of Big Mac of natural foods. They should all be exactly the same as they are genetically. The problem is that bananas come from so far away, and a lot of our fruits do these days, but still, bananas have to be handled very carefully. They're quite delicate. They're very susceptible to temperature variations. They bruise so easily. So you're going to get a lot of different kinds of variation in your banana. And you'll see that. People have asked me since I've written this book, why do my organic bananas ripen poorly? And theoretically, my answer has to be they don't. But clearly, people over and over again say that there's something off about this banana or that one, and it really has to do with sort of the amount of distance it travels, the amount of work that has to be done to get this fruit here, and all the little variables that could throw up roadblocks on that long trip.
Well, how does the distance traveled affect the taste and the ripening?
Well, in order to... a banana on a tree is always green. It will not ripen until it comes off the tree. The ripening process begins the moment the banana is removed from the tree. That is generally about 2 weeks before that banana is looking nice and yellow in your supermarket. In order to delay and control that ripening, the bananas have to be shipped in gas-controlled rooms where the atmosphere is controlled to limit the amount of a gas called ethylene that fruits give off when they're ripening. It's sort of it's a gas that basically says to other fruits around, hey, everybody, let's start ripening. So if the ethylene is not controlled properly, you're going to get some issues with the quality of the banana. And this refrigeration gassing process has to continue. Supermarket chains have huge banana ripening rooms in their warehouses that are specifically designed to keep bananas at these controlled temperature and gas levels. So if any of these little things goes wrong, if the mix is wrong, if there's too many bananas, if they ripen too quickly, then you're going to get some shoddy bananas. If they're handled roughly, if that carton gets dropped and the bananas get bruised, they're gonna not be as good. So there's, like as I was saying, there's all these little variables, fine tuning that has to be taken care of in order to get a good banana to you.